Hi everyone, this is going to be a tutorial on old age fantastical character. So within the unit of media makeup, which is unit UV30431, we have got to do two assessments. We have to do one which covers all our casualty effects. So that's all our cuts, our wounds, burns, etc. So we have to think of a scenario and we have to create a set look based on a story. So following on from that, we then have to look into developing our research just a little bit more and thinking about some different techniques which are really important to be able to create some kind of TV, film or theatrical character. So within our range, we have to create a fantasy character. We also have to cover old age and the use of prosthetic pieces as well. So the best way to do that, I thought, is to combine and create an old age fantasy character. So we have stuff like witches, wizards, you can even do like maybe a goblin or something. You know, the world's your oyster as long as the research is key. So this PowerPoint's really going to support you through this particular assessment and hopefully through the unit assignment as well, in case that hasn't been completed yet. Okay, so I'm not going to go through this massive slide. It's there really just to support you while you're working from home. But really, as a prosthetic makeup artist or a makeup designer, you have to do certain things to ensure that you get the best results. Okay, so you would need to first of all start off with a script. Okay, so you'd have the script which the writer or the producer has completed. Okay, you take that script away and you read it like a story. Okay, you envisage the characters, you start thinking of the elements which are really important to you. Then what we have to do is break down the script. Okay, so we have to analyze the characters, so we have to go over the script, we have to highlight all the characters and the key elements which link to that character and their persona. Okay, from that, that's when you can start doing your research. Okay, so you can start thinking about the actual character itself, what lifestyle it has, what emotions there are, the environment they live in, you know, anything that's going to help. So it could be their attitude, it could be anything that's going to help you determine what their look's going to be. Okay, so from that you can start thinking about designing your character look. You can start doing some little sketches. You can get images, okay, which I'll talk about in a moment. And you can start collating all the information you need to get a really good picture of these characters that you could present to your team. Okay, so that's what we have to mainly do. Okay, the makeup designers also have to think about hair makeup considerations, the costs. They have to agree with the terms and conditions that come into play, so like a contract of what they have to do. Normally, anyone who works in TV and film will either work from home or in their studios doing all this research. However, if you're on a really big production for films, etc., you may have a workshop which you work from yourself. Throughout any of this, keeping an accurate record for something called continuity, which I'll talk about in a little while, is really, really important. Particularly if you've got to replicate that makeup again. Okay, so making sure you record all the products and tools, your design elements, you're breaking down the look, you're thinking of timing, you're thinking of the whole process, so all the methods, step by step. Okay, so this is where all the research that we've done for all the other assessments and all the other assignments and units, this is where you kind of collate all that together and it starts sort of coming clear why that's so important. Okay, and really the introduction to that. So hopefully that sort of helps explain that a little bit more. If this is a particular area that really interests you, it's really worthwhile within your assignment or within your research that you do lots of background information and research on a key makeup designer in TV, film and theatre, and what their job roles are, and what their key factors are that they need to consider. Okay, so it's something that I would like you to research. On the next slide, I've got just some links to some pages that might be useful to you, and places that have got some methods and stuff which might sort of support you throughout this. I've also put down publications of books and stuff which will be really useful if you're going into this sort of area. Okay. Next, okay, the most important part. So how would you develop your mood boards to include components of media, character, special effects, makeup and techniques? Okay, so this is one of the questions in the assignment. It's a quite broad one, and like any unit that we've done, this one in particular requires very detailed research. So for this particular assessment, I'm going to just stick to this. You would need to look at the aging process. Okay, so you need to establish your character first. Okay, so if you're doing a witch, okay, I think I've used a witch as an example in this. You would need to look at different types of witches. You'd need to look at how old your witch is, what sort of character is your witch. Okay, so what emotions they have. Are they an evil witch? Are they a kind witch? Are they a funny witch? You know, have they had a sad life? Have they been evil? All those sorts of things need to come into play first. So you're envisaging, can't say that word, the character itself. Then from that, you want to think about the aging process itself. Okay, so you need to look at elements. So say I'm working on one of your really young, youthful faces. I need to make you look like you're a 80-year-old witch. You need to look at how you need to break down the skin, what sort of features are there for that sort of age group, and you need to do your research there. Okay, you'll need to know how the skin ages, where it ages, and then start thinking about some of the techniques needed to get that look that you need. Okay, so there are some references within your unit where you can do research. So looking at face and body design sketches, you can look through books, magazines, the internet, specialised trade magazines, all to get an idea of some of the characters that are out there at the moment and to give you some inspiration and to help your research. You'll have to look at maybe lighting that could be in play as well and how that might affect the makeup look. So you might want to, particularly if it's theatre, have different types of lighting from different angles to see how you can make someone look more evil through lighting, etc. So you can maybe do a bit of background research on that. You might even want to look into some TV, film genres as well, and look at some characters in there, and get some ideas and have a look to see if you can find any of the script breakdowns that the makeup artists have done in any of the films, and kind of go from there. Okay, from that we're going to sort of develop then. So you're going to start making a development journal. Okay, so this is like your lookbook work. So you will start making your own sort of research. You're going to refine it down into your particular character and what they're going to look like. You'll have considered their lifestyle, their emotions, etc., as well as their appearance. Okay, so those are the things that you need to look at. So you're going to do that with your research. From that, you can start making sketches. So rough sketches on what you kind of want your final image and your final character to look like. Then from those sort of bits of research, and you've sort of considered how your character is going to look, and what sort of persona they're going to be perceived as, you're then going to start making a more detailed design plan. Okay, so in one of my tutorials I'm going to upload after this, I have done an example of a character design plan with aging techniques. I had done myself as Joe Exotic, and I don't know what happened to my video, but it won't upload, and then it just disappeared. So I don't know if I've accidentally deleted that. So I'm just going to go straight in and do a witch or something myself, okay? And in the tutorial that I'll do, I'm going to do half my face as theatrical aging techniques using just purely shade and highlight. Okay, and then on the other side I'm going to use elements of prosthetic makeup, so I'm going to start using sort of latex old age stipple as well. Okay. So with that, you go with your body designs, your face designs, you think about your costume, you're then going to start thinking about any prosthetics you might need, and start breaking down what products, tools and equipment you need, and start to record the techniques. So think about your method on how you're going to actually go about creating this character. Okay, I have kind of sort of explained to maybe use film and TV programs to sort of help you, maybe theatrical shows as well, how they use special effects makeup, prosthetics, ball caps, how they use noses, chins, scars, etc., to sort of add to the character and to make a character come to life more. Okay, some of the techniques that we are going to be sort of exploring would be more used in theatre. So we're going to bear that in mind because this was sort of based around the theatrical era. So yeah, that is basically what we'd have to do. So I can't explain how important it is that you all get your research and your designs and your planning completed before we do this assessment. Okay. So next you're going to sort of give you an idea of some sort of mood board designs. So I've thought about some of the characters I like. Okay, I think I've got a mixture of witches, wizards, I've got, I think, the Grinch, or no, it's Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde, or whatever it's called. And then I've looked at some of the makeup artists, how they've used theatrical techniques maybe to age a character. Okay, so just using shade and highlight. Then I've looked into prosthetics. And then I've got some realistic images, okay? So I've gone and I've looked at the category, age group of the people of the character I want to create. And I've looked at how the skin ages, okay? And I've got males, females, and I've got different lighting and different angles as well. So I can have a look to see where lines and details are, as well as all the shade and highlight and where elements have sort of picked up. So I can use those to create the base of my makeup. So it's really important. Okay, and then what I'm going to do is use this research to then create a character of my own. Okay, so that's what we do. And from this, that's when you start breaking down exactly what it is you need to create your character. You do your design, you get your products, tools and equipment, and you do a method of all the techniques that you're going to be using. Okay, one of the assignment questions is to explain the safety considerations that must be taken into account when providing media makeup. So obviously, media makeup is going to be using lots of products which could potentially cause allergies or skin irritation. So it's really important when you use stuff like liquid latex or you use the prosthetic adhesives. You might use alcohol-based products as well. So they're all the elements which, they're all products, sorry, that have elements in them that are going to probably irritate the skin if you've got sensitive skin. So skin testing for allergies and compatibility to those products is really important. It really needs to be done 48 hours prior to the actual assessment you're working on. And you need to make sure you inform that client, obviously, of what they're looking out for, what they may experience if they do create an allergy, and what you're going to do about it as well. Okay, so I'm not going to tell you because you should know by now, and it's something that obviously I would like you to research for your assignment. The safe use and storage of chemicals and products. So going back to COSH, okay, making sure that all products are labelled, or chemicals are labelled, making sure that they're stored in a lockable, flammable cupboard as well, and making sure that whenever you use any of these products that have a flammable or a chemical symbol on them, that they are they have their lids put back on, and that you read the manufacturer's instructions as well. Okay, so there's some of the elements that I need you to look into. They're the key things that you need to make sure you're upholding to, but obviously I want you to research that a little bit more as well. And then we've got posture. Okay, so making sure that our posture is good, because we don't want to create injury or anything that is going to cause us discomfort. That goes for us and the client or the performer. So that's something that you could look into. You also need to make sure you're having regular breaks. A lot of this makeup can be quite time consuming. Okay, so you will need to make sure you set yourself little breaks, so you can just have a little gathering of thoughts, and just to sort of just chill and be mindful for a second as well. You need to identify risks and hazards. So for this, I have a risk assessment, and you have to assess your area, you have to assess everything that you're using, and you need to think about all the risks that might come about, and what the hazards may be. Okay, so you'd need to look out for things like, you know, your work area. Is there any trailing wires? Is there any spillages, etc.? If you're using chemicals, are you making sure that they are being used correctly? So following the manufacturer's guidelines, etc. Using PPE as well. So all those little things what we need to talk about. So if there was spillage, how would you deal with it? Okay, and what risk could that be? So what factors? So normally from a 1 to 5, like what's the risk factor? 1 being the highest, 5 being the lowest, etc. And then lastly, it's really, really important that everything is hygienic and clean and sterile, particularly in these unprecedented times that we're in. We need to make sure that everything's hygienic, clean and sterile. Okay. So environmental conditions, we've done this before, it's exactly the same for media makeup. Ventilation is key, because we're going to be using a lot of products which require you to have a lot of ventilation. So stuff like latex, strong adhesives, alcohol, all those things, such even plaster. Okay, so when we're mixing plaster, we need to make sure that we've got good ventilation, and that PPE even is being used as well. We need to obviously consider lighting as well. So we need to make sure that we've got the correct lighting, which is going to help us create the correct sort of skin tones, etc., and create the best finish that we can. You need to make sure the area is good temperature and is comfortable. You need to make sure it's safe, and that your work area is really organised. You need to make sure you're relaxing your client, making sure that everything's calm and you're not stressing at all, and that they're comfortable as well. And then electricity is obviously needed, making sure you've got good facilities, you've got everything you need to be able to produce a look like we're going to be achieving. Okay, I'm not going to go into this in too much detail because we have kind of done this before, but there's some key things. So these are the key things that are within your assessment books, which I've put on this slide. Okay, so we have to think about our general setting up and preparations. We need to think about our work area. We need to think about posture and deportment, and how we prepare our client. Okay. So first of all, we need to make sure that the materials that we've chosen are safe for use on skin and appropriate for the performer's skin type, the area of the skin that we're working on, um, um, and that the effect that we want is able to be achieved, and we can meet the cost requirements. Okay, so that's one of the first things that we need to make sure we're preparing for, which isn't on here in general, but something that you might want to add to. You might have to sit and model for a long while in chairs, so you need to make sure that you position them to minimise discomfort to them as well. The model's hair and clothing must be protected sufficiently, okay? You don't want to upset any performers. You need to make sure that you are fully prepared and that you're protecting their clothes and their hair and everything else, okay? Good relationships, okay? So you need to be really prepared, organised and professional at all times. So also communication is key. So if they have questions, they need to be informed every step of the way, everything you're doing. You need to be able to be willing to talk that client through and that performer through what you're doing. Okay. But one of the most important things is obviously preparing the skin and making sure everything's ready for the model. Okay, so you need to make sure you're doing all those consultation techniques as we always would, to make sure that we are using correct products for the brief and the character look, but also for the client. Okay, so it's quite important. And obviously it's really important to make sure that we do carry out our skin allergy testing as well. So those things need to be added in there, as well as all these obviously crucial detail things that we need as well. I'm just going to shut my window. Okay, so that's that one. So consultation techniques. So they're a little bit different to what we'd normally do, because we do really need to discuss our brief requirements. So we need to go through the processes and talk through our designs, the expectations, the aftercare. We need to make sure that the performers are okay and they sign anything to say that they're happy for the makeup to go ahead. You need to carry out skin analysis as you normally would, making sure that you check the client's skin type, and that they are fully aware of everything you're using on their skin. Okay. Now it's a little bit different because obviously they are set characters, so they need to have this makeup done to look the way they are. So it is really just making sure that you discuss everything with your client, and you make sure that everything is okay and that you've explored any eventualities, any problems that may arise, and you have a plan in case they do. Okay. Once done, you obviously need to cleanse the treatment area. So basically skin analysis, so you're cleaning the area that you're working on, you're checking the and identifying the condition of the skin, you're questioning performer as well, listening to them, and you're sort of going to go ahead with that as well. Okay. So there's a range of products and tools and equipment which are listed. Okay, it's really fairly important that you actually look into some of the products. Okay, so these are a lot of the tools. Okay, but when you look at the products, so maybe if you look at latex, old age stipple, look at Pro Stick, look at prosthetic pieces like gelatin, etc. Look at the ingredients maybe that are within those, just to make sure that you've got a log of anything that you're using and you understand what the products have in them, and any potential harm that could come and create allergies on your client. So look, nearly to the end, one of the questions says, describe the aims and limitations of media, makeup and special effects. So there's certain things that you need to take into consideration. Okay, so we've got consistency, coverage, how colours can be altered by different types of lighting, stability, variance on different skin types, environment, limitations of colours available. Okay, so thinking of our old age fantasy characters, so we're going to think about that first of all. So we need to make sure that obviously to make sure everything's consistent, so making sure that everything is well planned. If you were to have to produce this look again, or if something happened to you, God forbid, and another makeup artist had to take over, are the records consistent? Are they telling that person how they're going to create this character? Okay, if there's someone who doesn't know anything about makeup, could they read that and actually understand how you're going to create your character? Okay, so make sure there's consistency in your designs, your research, and your look that you create. Okay, coverage. Okay, so making sure you know your products. Okay, it's down to the makeup artists themselves to find what products they think work best for them. Okay, so making sure, particularly if it's theatrical makeup, that the coverage is good. Okay, and the strength of colour is strong, and that is the right consistency and it's the right thing for that particular makeup. So you need to look into that as well. So obviously we've done a little bit of research on lighting and how that can affect makeup. When it comes to theatre, there's lots of different coloured gels and stuff as well. So that might be something you want to look into in a little bit more depth. But you could maybe look into how colours can be altered under different types of lighting in a little bit more depth if you haven't done that already. So that's one thing. Stability as well, so thinking about how your makeup's going to withstand. Okay, making sure that you create a look which is suitable for the length of time it's needed for. If it's suitable as well, make sure it's stable to be used in the maybe the lighting and the temperature that's going to be around as well. And then you've got variants on different skin types. Okay, so you do have to make sure you think about if someone's got particularly oily skin. So when you're working with theatrical makeup, a lot of the makeup used is grease paint because it gets you really good strength of colour and then it's powdered. Okay, so you need to make sure that you're preparing the skin really well. It's also important to maybe look at different skin types and tones as well. So maybe particularly when we're doing aging makeup, okay, you might want to look at the skin tones and bases. Okay, so maybe looking at if you've got a particular character, they might be a really frail old character. So what skin tone you would need to sort of maybe go towards is like a grey undertone skin tone, because that sort of suggests frailty. If someone maybe is quite ill, maybe they're like, I don't know, have poison or something, I don't know, or they're starting to look really ill because they're getting quite old, maybe you could go for a yellowy greeny undertone. Or if your character is quite full of life, they've had quite a fulfilling youthful life and they've enjoyed every minute, then you might want to go for more of a red undertoned skin. Okay, so there's lots of different things and variants that you need to think about when you're looking at the skin. So whether it be skin of the actual performer, so you're determining that, so that might determine what products you use. And the type of character and their background as well could determine what their skin looks like and how you sort of create that character look as well. And the type of environment that you'll be working in. So that kind of goes hand in hand with the lighting, really. So if you're in theatre, then you need to make sure the makeup is suitable for different sized theatres, maybe. Different types of lighting, like I said, different coloured lighting, the temperature, I said the size of the theatre as well. And if it's TV and film, then obviously you need to think a little bit more of it looking really good close up, making sure there's edges, the blenders, etc. You might even be doing makeup outside, okay? So you need to maybe think about that as well, because that will have an effect on the makeup and how you do it as well. So that's another thing that might sort of limit or make you think about and how you're going to create the makeup. Okay, and then one of the other things is limitations of colour available. This is something that's suggested in the assessment book, but I think this day and age there's not really that much limitation of colour available. It just depends whether you've got that in your kit. Okay, so if you've got a whole array of different skin tones, characters and performers, you need to make sure that you've got everything that you need, and that you've got a consistent kit that's quite robust as well, so you can perform and do whatever you need to do. Okay, and then one part of the assignment, which is actually going to go into your lookbooks, so you need to make sure you've got methods for following different procedures and techniques. Okay, so you need to get the method and step-by-step how to create a facial cast. Okay, so we've all had a go at doing facial casting, and everything you need is on the distance learning week 5 and week 6. Okay, so you need to make sure, I think all these methods are in week 5 of distant learning on Moodle. Okay, so we've got facial casting. You need to find out how to mould prosthetic pieces. Okay, so you might want to just write up a little bit about that. And then also basically making the prosthetic pieces, and then applying and removing prosthetic pieces and how you would do that. And then application of product and the completion of an old age fantasy character look. Okay, so that goes with all your research, that last one. Okay, so that's quite important. So you would need to make sure that you've got that. And unfortunately, you can't pass the assessment unless you've done that, because you cannot go in with this blind. You have to do the research. And the importance of accurately recording the techniques, products used, making physical records of results. So as I said, so for continuity, it's really, really important that you carry this out. So continuity is where you have to make a full record. Okay, so it might be your development journal. Okay, so making sure you've got that all very detailed, photographic evidence, written bits of work as well, making sure that you really consider if you had to recreate this look, how you'd go about doing it. So that's the first sort of record that you'd need. So look up continuity and the sorts of things that are needed for that. Okay, so that's the first one, which is really important. And then you can also think about getting feedback from people. Okay, so getting feedback from the team, making sure that the clients sort of give you feedback and they agree with your objectives, etc. Any verbal feedback that you get from the team is really important. Self-reflection as well, so what went well, what didn't go well, so you can maybe make a note of any problems that you've had and how you'll sort of overcome them, or how you're going to overcome them, and that all becomes a really important element of the process of continuity. Okay, so continuity is the thing that you need to look up and what's included in that. So that's really important. Other than that, I think that's about it for that one. And there you go. What is continuity? Okay, so obviously it's the department's way, or makeup designer's way of keeping the look of the actor or actress in the scene consistent. So sometimes when you're doing a TV film or a theatrical show, you have to do different scenes. So you might have to do like scene 1 and then skip to scene 6. So it might be a different look, and then you might have to skip back to scene 1. Okay, and particularly if it's being filmed. Okay, so you might have to go backwards and forwards quite a bit. So you need to make sure there's an accurate record for each different look for different scenes. And it's down to you guys to make sure that you get the exact same look every time that scene is shot. Okay, so you need to make sure that that's on key, and it is really, really vital that you do that research and the design and all the techniques research as well. And then come down to design prosthetics. Okay, so you can use normal face plans and you can go from there, or you can have a go at doing your own. One thing I use in my tutorial that I show you, I actually take a photo of myself, or it would be the performer who I was working on, and how I'm going to change them into character. And then I work over the top of that. I print it off in black and white and I use that as my face plan. I then have the skin tone, I have a clear key of where the features are and where I'm going to put any shade and highlight. So I find that a really good way of working. But you can, as I said, work on a normal face plan if need be. And that's that really. So it's just really key for me to highlight that it's really, really, really important that, there you go, that you do your research and that you really think about your character and the background, their lifestyle, how they go about doing things, and what their look is and why their look is like that. So that's really quite important. And from that, you then do your designs, okay, and you start looking into how you're going to create your look. Okay, so that would mean you start selecting your products, tools, equipment, and you really need to think about everything, because when we go back after this, you kind of have to just get on with this. So it's really important that you're fully prepared and ready. You need to make sure you watch my tutorials from the practical, you need to look at other tutorials from practicals, and you need to just gather as much information that's going to support you and get you through this. Your design work is really important, okay? Try and make it as accurate as possible. Making sure you do lots of research on how the skin ages, okay? So you need to know that background information, which we've kind of gone over a little bit, but you need to really look at the aging process and maybe look at some actual visual photos of people of that age group that you want to create your character for. So yeah, so that's really the most important things, okay? So I would really like you to make a start on thinking about your fantasy characters. That's one of the main assessments we're doing. I'm kind of trying to do as many prosthetic pieces as I can myself. I'm going to try and cast them. I have done like a witch nose. I've tried to make it as unison as I can, but I've done a witch's nose and a witch's chin in the hope that we'll be able to use those as well. Because the main thing you have to do is know how to apply and remove and colour your prosthetic pieces. It doesn't actually say you have to make your own, but obviously if you want to make your own you can. But the most important thing is that you start thinking about your characters and how you're going to create them. If you think about a witch's nose and a witch's chin, if you want to create a different type of character with a kind of witchy nose and chin, that would be amazing, but we're kind of a little bit limited with the time we've got, and the fact that the resources we have are all sort of at college, so we kind of have to go with whatever we can, okay? But I really hope you enjoy your research, because it is really fascinating. Really look into makeup designers and how TV, film and theatre work. It is really interesting, and it is something that you probably will want to explore at some point if you really are into your makeup. So look into it. It's really useful, even if you're going to go into editorial fashion side of things. Knowing how to use prosthetics and how to analyse and research and stuff is key for that area as well. So don't think this isn't for you and that you're never going to use it. Okay, it might pop up at most unexpected opportunities. Okay, so think about it, and hope you enjoy doing it. You have till the 15th of June to make sure you've got everything ready and sorted. So do your best, and I shall speak to you soon. Bye.